Hello everybody, and thank you for watching this video. In this video, we'll be talking about pricing or setting prices. We're going to also develop an understanding of when customers pay prices, because what you'll soon find is that a price is essentially a company or a business assigning a value to products and services. Customers also do the same, and they go through a process where they kind of appraise whether or not they see value or the same value in our products and services. And based on that appraisal, they decide essentially whether they're going to purchase. Okay. Today we're going to show you the different pricing methods you can employ. We're going to show you, in food service, a good strategy for pricing products, okay, that takes into consideration multiple pricing strategies, and in the end, showing that food service pricing should be both strategic and tactical. Okay. Yeah. Here are some of our learning objectives for today. We're going to discuss or have an understanding of general pricing theory. We're going to understand the role of value as a component of customer purchasing decisions. We're going to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of different pricing methods adopted by food service businesses, and discuss why a combination of different pricing methods or strategies is quite appropriate for food service. We're going to discuss how to price products based on the target food cost percentage. Then we're going to discuss and show menu engineering and how it can help analyze prices and make our menus more efficient by changing those prices when we have a justification for it. And then we're also going to understand how competition, location, and multiple product offerings complicate pricing strategies for food service firms, right? In our industry, there is a ton of competition, right? And we need to take that into consideration when pricing our products, because if you have the same products as somebody else or very similar products, you have to be aware of how you're pricing them, because if you price them too high, you're going to drive volume to your competitors. So we'll be speaking about that as well. So to begin, we're just going to talk about pricing theory a little bit. We're not going to go into it too deep. I think we just need the high level stuff here. And economics tends to complicate pricing theory, and to be honest with you, a lot of it doesn't apply to food service. So pricing theory is very simply just the idea that our prices, or the combination of our prices, which creates sales, should be set at a level that we can cover our costs, but also accomplish the financial goals of our business, right? This relationship can be illustrated through rearranging our profit equation. So we'll recall that profit, here I'm just going to mark this up. You'll recall that our profit is equal to our sales minus our costs, right? If we rearrange that to isolate for sales, it becomes sales equal costs plus profit. Okay. Now, if we dive deeper into this equation, we understand, or we can identify, that our profit is our organizational goal, right? At the end of the day, we want to make money, okay? Costs are going to be what they are, largely variable, because we're in food service and the majority of our costs are variable. And then sales, right? Your sales are typically a function or a product of the prices customers pay multiplied by the amount of guests who pay them, right? If we multiply those two things together, assuming we know what they are, it equals your sales. And my fire alarm's going off. So generally, pricing is such that pricing theory is such that we need to be setting our prices so that we can cover all of our costs and provide a profit or achieve the organizational goal, right? So setting prices is a bit more complex than we think, because if we break down that previous equation, which was sales equal cost plus profit, we can break it down into our sales. Our sales is equal to our variable costs. Okay, so our food cost, beverage cost, labor cost, so on and so forth. Our fixed costs like rent, depreciation, insurance, and our profit. Okay, so our sales prices individually need to be able to cover our variable costs, cover a portion of our fixed costs, and provide for a bit of profit. Okay, we're going to talk more about how that happens, or more about this relationship when we talk about CVP next week. But again, it's important to realize that when we're setting prices, we need to be setting them at a level that covers these costs and provides a profit. Okay, if we can't cover the costs, there is no profit. And profit is, at the end of the day, our money as business owners, or what allows us to reinvest into our business and keep it running in the future. While this general idea is fairly straightforward, okay, so sales must cover our costs and provide a profit, prices have a almost human element to them, because our customers have to be willing to pay those prices, right? So we need to be setting our prices with our customers in mind. Okay, so our prices need to be customer centric, which is what we're going to talk about next. How we connect with our guests and customers through our prices is through value, right? So there's a large component of value appraisal when we're setting prices, and when customers are deciding whether or not they're going to pay those prices. From the organizational point of view, or the business point of view, our prices are essentially how we assign value to the products and services that we offer, right? It's a quantitative or numerical value that we are assigning to those products and services. Just like how we assign those values to our products and services, guests also assign a value to our products and services. And prices are paid when guests perceive the value of our dishes and service as being greater than the price. Okay, creating a net value for the guest. So if we want to talk about putting this mathematically, okay, so a customer, when they're deciding whether or not they're going to buy something, or they assign a perceived value to it. Okay, if you subtract the price, okay, and the net benefit here is greater than zero, that means then the perceived value as generated by the customer is greater than the price, which means they're going to pay the price because they perceive it to be of higher value than the price itself. Okay, it's very simple. Okay, so let's make a personal example of this. So the brand new iPhone. So let's say you have an iPhone and Apple has just come out with a brand new iPhone. Okay, and let's say that iPhone costs $1,800. Okay, that's the price. So we understand what the price is, right? That's very, that's information that's given to us. Now we, in our heads, assign it a value, and ask ourselves, is it really worth it? Is it worth paying that price? You know what I mean? If you really want the newest iPhone, and you assign it a very high perceived value that is greater than the price, you have a net benefit. Okay, and when you have a net benefit, it means that you're more predisposed to pay that price. That said, the research has shown that both food quality or product quality and service quality play a very large role in perceived value, or in the formation of customers' perceived value. And as such, we should understand that relationship, because quality of our products and services are something that can be controlled by management. And you know what I mean? It's often a good comparison point to our competitors, right? For example, while every single food service organization says they have quality products, there is differing level of quality, right? It's the difference between McDonald's and the Works, right? So the Works is, if you're not aware of the restaurant called the Works, it's a burger place that has a giant menu of really customized burgers, offering different meats like bison, sometimes venison, things like that, right? So because the quality is higher, their prices are drastically higher than McDonald's, right? And that doesn't mean that people don't pay McDonald's prices. They do. But when people go to the Works and pay the prices, the reason they're paying the higher prices for the for essentially the same product, a burger, is because the quality is much higher. Okay, so we have to understand the relationship between service quality, product quality, and perceived value, which is what we'll talk about next. All right, so service quality, product quality, price, and value. The research has shown that service quality and product quality and perceived value are all highly correlated variables, right? So when one increases, the other increase. But also price moderates the relationship between service quality, food quality, and value. Okay, for example, holding prices constant, service quality and food quality have a positive relationship with value or perceived value. That said, if service quality or food quality decrease, holding prices constant, value decreases, right? If service quality or food quality increase, right? So we're increasing the quality of either our service quality or food quality. Holding prices constant, value will increase. That said, prices do moderate that relationship. So holding service quality or food quality constant and you increasing your price decreases value. Okay, the converse is true, or the opposite is true. Holding service quality and food quality constant, decreasing prices increases value, right? So understanding these general things, we can start to kind of and comparing it to competitors, we can start to assign a net value for our products, or prices within our restaurant. But it's also important to realize that while these relationships are very true, a customer must also possess three things to make a purchase decision, and we'll talk about those next. Okay, so prices are paid when customers must agree, with our prices or our assigned value. Okay, they must, perceive a net value when they take into consideration their own perceived value. But they also have to have three things or exhibit three things in order to actually make a purchase. The first of which is the desire to purchase. They have to want the product. Okay, if they don't want the product, they're not going to purchase it. All right, it's fairly straightforward. They must also demonstrate a willingness to purchase, right? So that means willing to part with the required money to pay the price, okay? And lastly, they must also have the ability to purchase the product. So they have to have the money, okay? It's different from willing to purchase, because willing to purchase is willing to part with a certain amount of money, whereas ability to purchase is having that amount of money, okay? If customers demonstrate all three, okay, they pay prices. Okay, if they don't, okay, so let's say you do not have or exhibit one of these three things, you will not pay the prices. Okay, for example, during COVID-19, Couples Resort up in Muskoka, some of you might be aware of who they are, very expensive resort. Okay, they were running a promotion for not first responders, but frontline workers. And my fiance is was a frontline worker. And during COVID-19, we were like, maybe we'll go away for a weekend, something like this. And the price for the weekend to stay at Couples was $500, which is a great deal. Okay, based on that price, I obviously had the desire to go. Right, I had the desire to go go take a 2-day break. I had the willingness to part with $500 because I thought it was a great deal, and I had $500 to part with, and I had $500, so I had the ability to purchase. Right, we didn't end up going because we got caught up. Something popped up that prohibited us from leaving that weekend, and after, fast forward a couple, like a month, it's not quite post COVID just yet, but later on, when when the economy opened up and lodging and Airbnbs were allowed to continue operating again, the price for the exact same room at the Couples Resort different weekend, obviously, went from $500 to $1,500, right? That's a big increase. So, revisiting, I was like, do I want to do this? We kind of want to go away. Obviously I had a desire to purchase. Okay, so check. I wanted to go away. I had the ability to purchase. I've got, I can scrape together some $1,500. But I was not willing to part with that amount of money. I didn't see the true nature of the value, right? Because it was $500, and you know what I mean. For 2 days, I don't really want to pay $1,500 to go away for 2 days. Okay, you can spend the same amount of money and go to Cuba for a week. Everything's all inclusive. I mean, you can't right now, obviously, but in the future you could. So, while I saw value or a little bit of value in going to couples, the price that they assigned to their resort, which was their resort for 2 days was $1,500. I was not willing to part with that amount of money, so I did not purchase. So there is a bit of an appraisal that customers go through when they're deciding whether they're going to pay the prices. So they've got to see value, they've got to see a net value initially. They have to, desire to purchase something. They have to have a willingness to purchase it, and they have to have the ability to purchase it. Okay, when all three things exist, and assuming they have they see value in what's being offered, they pay prices. If any one of those things are missing, they do not pay prices. So here we're going to talk about the different pricing methods. Okay, there's quite a few. They're not terribly hard to follow, but what I want you to realize by the end of this is that no one method, is not necessarily ultimately better than the rest. But as food service firms, we should be using a multitude of pricing methods when approaching the prices for our menu items. Okay, so first of which is the intuitive method. As the name might kind of indicate, this is when business food service owners or managers with no knowledge or research on prices sets prices just because at a level that they think is correct. Okay, so this is just arbitrarily picking a price that you think suits the products. Okay, the advantage of this method is it's very quick. It does not require any resources, or knowledge or research. So it's quick and it's easy, but there's no consideration of value to guests, right? So you're not looking at it from a customer's point of view. And again, it's not the business owners or the managers who pay the prices, it is your customers or your guests. So the major disadvantage here is you're missing that guest perspective. Okay. Next is our rule of thumb method. This is the idea that menu prices should be set at a level that is 2.5 times higher than the food cost to achieve a 40% cost of sales. So that means that your cost of your food cost is 40%, where that leaves 60% as your gross margin, right? So you take the price, you minus the food cost, and the result is that your gross margin is 60% of your sales. So, for example, if our prices are 100%, so let's just say our prices are at 100%. We minus 40% as a cost of food, COF, cost of food. The remainder is 60%. And that is our gross margin, or GM. Okay. While this, the logic here is good, you know what I mean? So we're starting to make some financial decisions around our prices, and there's a logic to it. It does not take into consideration the competitive environment, right? Or guest value. So there's two negatives here, right? The disadvantage is that, you know what I mean? You have to look at your competitors' prices because your customers do as well, right? For example, if I'm looking to get tacos for dinner and there's two taco places within my general, location, I'm going to go to the taco place that has the cheaper prices. Okay, assuming quality is the same and the value is the same. Okay, so the major disadvantage here while it is fairly logical, so we are, leaving a 60% gross margin, it does not take into consideration the competitive environment or value from a customer's perspective. The next method is called the markup method. So this involves selecting or identifying a target food cost, and then marking up sales prices to achieve that specific cost. Okay, so this is very similar to the previous method, but it's such that when you do this, every single time you sell a menu item, you know that the food cost is going to be the exact same percentage, or you're going to hit that target food cost percentage. I'm going to show you how to calculate it, but this method in many cases may be leaving some money on the table, but it's a great way to start setting prices based on very little information. Okay, you do need to take into consideration the competitive environment, and the reaction from your customers, but you can change prices. So this is a good way to set those prices initially. And how we do that is we take the dollar food cost of our particular product, and we only know this by costing out a particular dish, and then we divide it by a certain food cost percentage. So in our industry, I'd say with casual fine dining, or casual dining, the food cost percentage the range of acceptable food costs is anywhere from 28% up to the very highest, maybe 31%. Okay, so let's say we have a salad, okay, and this salad costs us $5 to make. Okay, we know this by costing out the salad, and we want a 30% food cost. If we take that $5, divide it by 0.3 or 30%, we get a price of $16.66. That means that every single time I sell that salad, I know that 30% of the price is going to cover the food cost. Okay, leaving 70% of the price, which is technically your contribution margin, which we'll talk about next week, leaving 70% of that price to go and cover your fixed costs and provide for a profit. Okay. So the next two methods, the first of which is the trial and error method. As the name might suggest, this is essentially setting prices and then changing them to achieve some sort of optimal sales point. Okay. If you're thinking about economics, this is your point of equilibrium, okay, where your price level is at a point where your customers are willing to pay for it, and based on supply and demand, it optimizes your sales point, okay. And this optimal sales point is only achievable by using trial and error. So setting a price, if it works, increasing or decreasing it, and eventually somehow finding that equilibrium between prices and quantity demanded. However, it does take time to realize or arrive at that equilibrium point. This can be extremely confusing to your guests who visit multiple times a week or a month and get a different price every single time they come into your restaurant. It's not terribly logical. I mean, you're allowed. Prices are dynamic. You're allowed to change your prices. Don't get me wrong. However, if you do it too frequently, it can be confusing to your guests because the product isn't changing or the service isn't changing. It's the price, right? So go back to the slide where we talked about value and food quality and service quality, assuming those things are being held constant. Okay, so I'm just going to do this here. Okay, so food quality. Okay, the food quality is staying the same, okay, and the service quality is staying the same. If the price increases, so there's a price increase, the resulting effect on value is that value goes down, okay, because customers have had the same dish before in the same restaurant and paid a lower price. So when the price increases, value goes down. So you have to be careful about changing your prices too often. especially when increasing prices. The next method is the price cutting method. So this is setting prices below that of a direct competitor in hopes that the guest count or the people that will come into your restaurant will increase and that the additional income will offset the differences in the price. Okay, so this is basically saying I'm going to reduce my prices so that more people will come to my restaurant instead of a competitor, and the additional guests that are coming in because of the increased volume or guest counts, the additional income from those guests will offset the differences in prices. Okay, this can work. Okay, it depends on the competitive environment. So that's the advantage of this particular method, is it does take into consideration your competition. But this can be risky if you ignore your costs when you're setting your prices. Okay, so you cannot set you can't sell below fixed costs, right? You can't sell below your variable costs. If you're not covering your costs, again going back to pricing theory here, if you're not covering your costs, then your price is not effective. Okay, so decreasing a price to stimulate increased volume or taking business away from your competition is a great idea, especially in a highly competitive environment, right? But if you set it too low or drop your prices too low, you might not be able to cover your costs at the end of the week. Okay. So here's when we're going to start talking about competition a little bit more. Okay. Firstly, there's indirect competition and direct competition. Okay, I know most of you have taken marketing before, and we will continue to take marketing in this program, but direct competitors are competitors that compete for A, your target market, and B, offer very similar products to your own. Indirect competition are other businesses within your general industry. Okay, so who would it be as an example here? So if I owned a McDonald's, okay, Burger King would be a direct competitor of mine. However, Subway is an indirect competitor because they don't offer the same products as myself. Okay, location also plays a factor as well, right? If within a general vicinity or location you have a lot of direct competition, then your prices are going to have to take into consideration the competition, because if you increase your prices too much, you've automatically told your competitors it's the opposite of the price cutting method. Basically all your customers are going to go to your competition because your prices are just that much higher than theirs and you offer the same products, right? I mean, it's one thing to talk about, the economic perspective of prices, which we really aren't touching on in this class or this lecture, but try to think of it from a customer perspective, right? You want to get a deal. You value your money, right? So you have to think about your prices from the customer's perspective, and also from the competitor perspective. You have to understand how your competitors are going to react to your prices. All right, so the last two, I believe, the high price method is very similar, or is the opposite of the price cutting method. The high price method is selling prices higher than the competitors using product or service differentiation. This approach does have a good logic to it, but it's risky if your customers do not see the value in the products that you do. Okay, so you really have to be focused on your customers here. So, and I'm just going to write this up here, Michelin. Okay, because that's a great example. There was some research done on Michelin star restaurants. So this is saying that if your products are very different from your competition, okay, so they can be a direct competitor, but if they're if the competitive atmosphere is very relaxed in your area and there's not a whole lot of you're differentiated, you have different products and services than the competition in the area, you can set higher prices than your competition because your customers can't get your products anywhere else or a similar product anywhere else, right? So they pay a premium for it, right? Think about it like this, okay? So in Burlington, we often go to this particular sushi restaurant. We love the sushi. We've been going for forever, right? Um, and we pay their prices, and for the most part, like you can you go to a sushi place, they're all the same for the most part. I'm not talking about in Toronto, but in Burlington, you're paying the same price no matter where you go, because sushi is sushi is sushi in Burlington. Okay. Um, what is it called? The lady, we didn't really know her, but she came to the table often, so we developed a relationship with the owner. She was saying she was having a hard time with the restaurant, because her partners wanted to pull out of the restaurant and get their investment out of the restaurant because they weren't making any money. And she was like, "How do I, you know what I mean? How do I increase sales? How do I market this place?" And I you know what I mean? Like I bounced it around my head for a really long time. There's not much you can do because she's not differentiated. There's no difference between her sushi place and the sushi place, a kilometer away. So she had to price her products similar to everybody else, and what that did in a highly competitive environment was spread out the volume, or the amount of customers in the market, right? So there was too much competition. However, if she was the only sushi place in town, she could set prices higher. Or you know what I mean? If there was only um, two sushi places in town, and her quality was much better, she could again set prices much higher than her competition. But again, this is risky, because you have to make sure that when you're increasing that price, there is a justification for it, right? Your customers understand that there's a price increase and equate that with value or quality, right? They're paying a higher price because there's a higher quality and thus a higher value. Okay. Another example is some research that they did on Michelin star restaurants. They found that Michelin star restaurants, when they were going through the process of getting their certification, they increased their price. Okay. They've also found that when they got a Michelin star, their prices increased on average by 50%. Now, why did they do this? Obviously, they're setting prices higher than their competition, but because there's a certification saying Michelin stars are higher quality now, or this is a high quality restaurant because it gets a Michelin star, those restaurants increase their price drastically. Okay, so that is a great example of the high price method in Michelin star restaurants. Next is kind of a similar pricing method in the sense that it takes into consider the competitive environment, but competitive pricing involves adopting competitors' prices and then differentiating. Right, so this is a strategy where we price our products very similar to our competition, and then differentiate by increasing service quality or increasing food quality or offering something different. This, because value has gone up, while the prices stayed the same, or sorry, so while food quality or I'm going to write this down here. So food quality, service quality, price, and value. Okay. So let's say we priced similar to our competition, so price don't change. Let's say our food quality went up, our service quality stayed the same. The result here has a positive effect on value, and value increases, right? So if food quality or service quality increase, holding price the same, value must go up, right? So as value going up, it can force more guests or customers from your competitor to yourself or to your restaurant. But you have to be careful here. Again, you have to understand how much value or how much your food quality is increasing, right? For customers to justify paying those prices. So if you don't differentiate properly, okay, by making yourself somehow different, you can inadvertently force your guests to the competition. Okay. Now, this may seem odd, but you'd be surprised in our industry how many restaurants follow competitive pricing or following the leader method. I've worked for a couple restaurants, and honestly, walking into one was like walking into another, because they were so similar, right? And the next few slides are going to show you that. All right, so let's just take a quick look at some of these dishes. We've got some tuna tacos here. Okay, that look pretty good. It looks like Asian slaw to some degree. Um, Ahi tuna. Okay, very rustic, probably quite delicious. And we have a almost a tuna tartare over here, right? So we've got avocado on the bottom, right here. We've got some crispy stuffs. Um, and then the tuna up here, right? So we got two products. Okay, I'm not sure if the keg is still offering these, but I know they did at one point. Now let's compare these to another restaurant. Milestones. So this is these are two dishes offered by Milestones, and what you're going to notice is they're exactly the same. We have avocado here on the tuna tartare. Okay, we've got the tuna, and then we've got those crisps that we were talking about. Right over here, we've got another set of tuna tacos. We've got that Asian slaw. There we go, and we've got the seared ahi tuna in the tacos. So both of these products are extremely similar. Okay, in fact, the tuna poke is pretty much exactly like like uh, like the keg. Now, you'd be surprised to know that while these products are pretty much identical, they actually have two different price points, right? So what the keg has done is used competitive pricing, so offering a very similar product, but they've differentiated somehow where they have an increased, in comparison to Milestone, they have an increased service quality, right? I think most of you who have been to both restaurants would agree, right? Um, their prices are typically higher than Milestones because they are to some degree differentiated, and whereby can increase their prices a little bit. So there was quite a few methods that we had just gone over. So if you're wondering, which pricing method should I use? The right answer, the answer to that question is is kind of a cop-out answer, but it can be used in many areas of life. And the answer is it depends. It depends on your context. It depends on your customers. It depends on your competitors and things like that. Okay, so while all of those previously mentioned pricing methods are sufficient to set prices, we need to be taking into consideration holistic accounting and consumer behavior data to truly maximize profits. Okay, so that's taking into consideration costs. Okay, but it's also taking into consideration, consumer behavior, which is consumer behavior data, which is a combination of competitive as well as appraisals of value. Okay, so basically, what we can do is look at what prices the customers are actually paying in our restaurant to make changes to our prices and maximize our profits. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a bit, or the way we do it. Okay. All that said, if your business is not operating properly, using the wrong method of pricing will actually decrease your profitability. Okay, so that's like you're a very homogeneous business or restaurant with another, so you have a lot of direct competitors in the market, and there's quite a few of them. If you increase your prices, okay, so you're using let's say you're using the high price method. Okay, so you increase your prices above the competitors, that will likely decrease your profitability because your customers are going to go to your competition. Okay, so holding your costs the same, if your prices are not being paid, you're not generating sales, whereby reducing your profit levels. Okay, other examples within your operation that may yield some poor results with your profitability is not using yield tests with your meat products or your products that need to be broken down. So this is things like prime rib. This is things like whole fish. If we don't know exactly how much a portion of our high-end products costs, we can't necessarily set an appropriate price. Similarly, if we don't understand the standard costs of our items, we don't know if our price is going to cover the cost of those items. So if you're not standardizing your costs, then you could be pricing your products either too high or too low. Okay, if your prices are too high, your customers might not pay them, and if they're too low, you're going to lose money. Okay, and then ultimately it shows in poor guest counts, right? So if you don't have enough guests coming into your restaurant, even if they are paying the prices, it's going to hurt your profitability. Okay. Um, One example that I can give of using the wrong method here is, it uses economic theory, right? So let's say you have a restaurant, okay, and your restaurant is very popular, okay. So you have a wait list every day of the week, okay, with customers lined up outside your restaurant to come in, okay. What economic theory suggests here is that you have excess demand, okay, while you have limited supply. Um, what economic theory also suggests is that if you increase your price, you're going to decrease demand or get rid of the excess demand, okay, whereby, making your restaurant more accessible, so people aren't waiting, things like that. However, what the research has shown is that in the context of what I just said, if that was your situation, the result is that your profitability actually decreases. Okay, while you will soon find everyone has a price, by increasing prices, you're actually limiting the amount of people that will come to your restaurant. So realistically, restaurant pricing, we need to be tactical and strategic. Okay, so a combination of two methods, kind of, or two perspectives on pricing, meaning that our prices should be sufficient enough to achieve long-term financial goals, whereby covering costs. Okay, so and providing a profit. Yet we also have to be flexible and tactical with our prices so that we can react to changing aspects, about our business. For example, the competitive environment. Okay, so if a restaurant pops up in the same plaza as you need to take that into consideration and be flexible with your prices. Furthermore, if the target demographic of your business changes, or things like that, you need to take that into consideration because that's the customer who's going to be paying your prices. So you have to be able to your prices should be tactical or sort of strategic in that they achieve your long-term goals and cover your costs, but you also have to be tactical, in that you change them when your business context or competitive environment changes. Okay, so where this kind of boils down to is our prices need to take into consideration costs. They also need to take into consideration, value for our customers. And if we do this, it is both economic focused, okay, and customer focused. Okay, so it is both strategic and tactical. Okay. And we'll show you how to set prices based on these things or these ideas later on. You can also use what we call dynamic pricing. Okay, so dynamic pricing is offering various prices for different products or for the same product in different contexts. Okay, so who uses this? Airlines use dynamic pricing, hotels, and some restaurants. Okay, so airlines use this. You'll notice that if you book a flight earlier, okay, so for rather than sooner, you're probably going to pay less than the same person, than a person who's paying for a flight closer to the flight date. Okay, the reason for this, or the difference in the price, is because not all people want to spend the amount of money, so they book earlier on and they get a cheaper price. Whereas other people who don't want to book earlier, okay, they pay a higher price um, because it's closer to the time of the flight. Okay, hotels do the exact same thing. Okay, in fact, hotels bring use dynamic pricing quite a bit because for any particular room in a hotel, there's multiple prices. You'll notice this by going to different third-party hotel sites. So what is that? Trivago, Kayak, things like that. They all have different prices for the same room. The reason for that is everyone has a price. right? So you can even book with the hotel themselves, right? So if you book with the hotel, typically you're going to get a higher price than if you were to book with a third party um, reservation site like Trivago or Kayak. Okay, so um, same product, same room, three different prices. Okay, so it's dynamic. Some restaurants do. Use dynamic pricing on special occasions such as like Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, New Year's Eve, or at least from my experience, they offer special menus. So it's essentially the same products just at a different price point. Um, and different consumers find different value in different products. So some consumers will pay to have those special menus, although those items are on the regular menu itself, right? Um, so yeah, the general idea with dynamic pricing is offering a variety of products at different prices so that everybody who comes into the restaurant or to the business has a price that they are going to find value in and willing to pay. Okay. Um, yeah. So in restaurants, can we use dynamic pricing a whole lot? You can, but only through what we call LTOs, or limited time only menus. Okay, typically these are priced higher than their equivalent on our regular menus. So here's where we actually get into the nitty gritty of using strategic and tactical pricing. Okay, during a restaurant startup, prices are very difficult to project and set, right? Mainly because you don't have, I mean, you can forecast demand, but using bottom-up pricing, which is another pricing theory, okay? I used to teach this one last semester, or last semester, but I began to question how effective the bottom-up pricing method is because we have to use projected demand or forecasts, guest count forecasts, in order to determine what sales level or AGC we need to have, which is our average guest check, and that average guest check is a weighted average of all of the products we sell. Okay, so we've changed it here a bit this semester based on the most current research. So I'm going to show you a good practice to follow in setting your prices for a startup restaurant. Okay, that cover your costs. So hit your financial obligations and your goals, but also take into consideration the competitive environment and customers' perception of value. Okay, we're going to do this through cost-based pricing, okay, as well as menu engineering analysis to evaluate, the actual purchases or prices paid by our guests. Now, remember, price is just a number if it's not paid by your customers. Okay, so that's why we need to take into consideration consumer behavior and the value that they see, right? Um, you also have to take into consideration the competitive environment because it will suggest how much flexibility you have in setting your prices. For example, if the competitive environment is large and saturated, then your products are homogeneous or similar to other businesses or restaurants for that matter, and you have less flexibility in setting your prices, right? In a context like this, where the competitive environment is hard, absolutely take into consideration your costs, but price below the competition because that'll drive more volume to your restaurant. Okay. On the other hand, if the competitive environment is relaxed, okay, and not saturated, so that means you're fairly differentiated, okay, in the market, which means that your products are different, your products and services are different than the competition, then you have much more flexibility with your prices, right? You can increase them, maybe not too much, but you kind of have a little bit more leeway with what you can do with your prices. So here is where we're going to go over, a quick example of setting menu prices initially for individual products, okay, or individual dishes. It is common in our industry to initially set menu prices using costing information. However, we cannot use this alone, right? We can't. Successful pricing is not based purely on quantitative information, but also qualitative information such as consumer behavior and competitive forces, so the competition. Now, let's say we have a menu item that costs $4 to produce, and we want to have a target food cost of 37%, which is really high. Don't do 37%. Again, the normal range for food cost is anywhere from 28 to 31% on the high end. Okay. Um, if you take $4 and divide it by 37% or 0.3, you get a price of $10.80. Okay, so every time you sell this product, you're going to cover your variable costs. Okay, and $10.80, or sorry, the remainder. Okay, so $10 minus $4, which is $6.80. $6.80 is going to go towards covering your fixed costs and your profit or your organizational goal. Okay. Now, while this is a good start, you need to take into consideration what the market will bear by looking at consumer data, which we'll talk about in a second, and your competitors' prices, right? For example, if competition is high, you have less flexibility in your prices than in a competitive environment that is fairly relaxed. Okay, so you could increase or decrease and and have some success with that. Okay. Okay, so while we've talked about a lot of this already, so I hope that you understand the logic here. Once we've set our prices based on that target food cost percentage, okay, you need to scan the competitive environment to see, again, that flexibility that you have in your prices, right? As we had mentioned before, if the competitive environment is saturated and you are, homogeneous within your direct competitors, the appropriate strategy to use here would be pricing below the competition to drive customers away from your competition and to you. Okay, if it's relaxed, the competitive environment, I mean, and competitions are competitors are few. Okay, try to look at their products and compare and their business and compare their service quality and product quality to yours. That will give a general indication of what you should be doing with your price, right? For example, if their service quality is higher than yours and their product quality is higher than yours, their price in comparison to yours should be higher, right? So you would again price below the competition. But on the other hand, if your service quality and product quality was better than your competition, you would price your products above theirs. Okay, so competition is a big component to setting prices. Okay, again, this is a very, it's not that it's terribly difficult to understand, it's just complex, right? There's so many factors that go into setting prices. We need to be aware of what they are, and we can only be aware of what those factors are by scanning the competitive environment and understanding the consumer behavior portion of prices, or paying prices, I should say. So let's say we've set our prices based on costing information, and we've scanned the competitive environment and understand, how our prices relate to other prices in the market, and how our value compares to others in the market. What you want to do is you have to understand the consumer behavior behind your prices. You have to understand who's paying the prices and who's not. Okay. So once you have sales information, okay, so you've set your prices and you've opened your doors, and people are coming into the restaurant, you can analyze your menu and your menu prices by conducting a menu engineering analysis in order to improve the effectiveness, the efficiency of your menu and your prices. Okay. Menu engineering is generally defined as an analysis that compares each menu item on your menu to others in terms of profitability and popularity in order to categorize them or lump them into categories and propose improvements to the menu. Okay. Now, while menu engineering can be used for a multitude of things, what we're interested in here is each item's popularity. Okay. Because if an item is popular, it means people are paying your prices. If it's not popular, that could give an indication that your price is too high, and as a result, your customers are not paying that price. And I'll show you some examples in the following slides. So here is just kind of a chart of the different menu engineering categories. Okay, so we have a star first and foremost. Those are our star menu items to go with some consistency here. And these items are characterized by being extremely popular and extremely profitable. Okay, so they have a high contribution margin. Again, what we're interested in here is um, making the menu more efficient, but what we're interested in is popularity, because that tells us people are paying our prices, right? A plow horse, on the other hand, or before I go on, so because a star has high profitability, it means customers are paying, okay? And that is what we want, okay? We want customers to pay our price because that means we've set them correctly, or that the prices are efficient, right? So it takes into consideration perceived value. Okay, it also shows that customers have a willingness, desire, and ability to purchase our products, and that they're buying it from us. So our prices take into consideration the competitive environment. Okay, the next category is a plow horse. Okay, again, uh, characterized by high popularity but low contribution margin. So it's not terribly profitable. Okay. Now, what we would do here, or what we could do, because people are paying the prices, okay, we could possibly increase the price of our plow horses. Okay, so increase price, but only a little bit. Okay, we don't want to affect the popularity. Okay, if we do that, if we increase the price, it could push this product into the high profitability threshold, whereby making it a star. Okay, so that's where that transition from a plow horse to a star is where you see, okay, that your menu is becoming more efficient. Okay, on the bottom right hand side, right here, we have a puzzle, okay, which is characterized by high contribution margin, so it's really profitable, okay, but it's low popularity. Okay, now this should be concerning, okay, the low popularity, because what that means is in comparison to other products on the menu, okay, people are not paying the price as much as the other products. So what this could mean, or what you could do here, is you could decrease the price. And by holding all other things the same, so the product quality and the service quality of your restaurant, by decreasing the price, value must increase. So what that means is that the value is increasing. More customers may purchase these products or this product, whereby turning this puzzle into a star. Okay. So in two scenarios, we can do two things with our prices. Okay, plow horses, we can increase our prices a bit. Okay, and our puzzles, we should be decreasing our price a little bit, but not enough to affect the profitability, which I'll show you how to do on Thursday in our seminar. And both by doing those things with these two particular items, you could possibly turn them into stars and make them more efficient, or make your menu more efficient and your business more profitable. Okay. Lastly, we have a dog menu item, which is characterized by having low popularity and low contribution margin. Okay, so the question here is, what do you do with a dog? Uh, there's not much you can do. Okay, so it's characterized by being low profitability. Okay, so the profitability is already low on the this particular menu item, and it's not popular. Okay, so it could be an indication that the price is too high, but there's low contribution margin, which means it's not profitable. So you can't reduce the price anymore, because it's already you can't reduce the price anymore, because you're not making money off the product already. So why would you decrease the price, right? There's a few options you can do with dogs. Is you can get rid of them. Okay, you can take these off your menu. Although in some cases, dog menu items tend to be things like kids meals, um, kids meals, vegetarian meals, vegan meals, things like that, where you cannot get rid of them off your menu because then you're telling people that you can't come to the restaurant, right? If you don't have vegetarian food, vegetarian people can't eat at your restaurant. It's nearly discriminatory. Um, and kids food. There has been research done on offering kids menus in restaurants, and the reaction from customers, you know what I mean, it has been generally bad. Okay, even among the target market. So, you know, they surveyed some customers in a restaurant, and those customers were like, "Yeah, we'd like it if, you know, there were less kids or no kids at all." And then the restaurant instituted the change. Where they didn't have a kids menu, or in some cases they drastically increased the price of kids menus, and there was a severe negative reaction to that change, and it affected their profitability just because nobody came to the restaurant after that. Okay, so here again, those four categories and what to do with those items. I've put a slide on the next. Sorry, I've included a slide. I believe it's next, with a recap of what you can do with each one of these menu categories. I'm not going to speak to it directly, but it's a good summary for you. Okay, I guess I was lying. That's the summary slide is the next one. Here's just an illustration of a menu engineering worksheet. Okay, this is what we're going to be doing on Thursday. So we're going to be conducting a menu engineering analysis, and while we may have done this before, we're going to apply the results, the results of this analysis in a different way. Okay, but some just as a general overview. Okay, so we have all this information. What we're looking to do is find out whether each product is high or low with respect to contribution margin or profitability, and menu mix percentage or popularity. As we understand the combination to which each item is either high or low with respect to those two items, we can begin to classify the menu item and change those items for the better. Okay. Again, with plow horses, we can reasonably increase a price. With puzzles, we might want to decrease prices a little bit. Okay, but again, that all depends on the result of our menu engineering analysis that we're going to conduct on Thursday during our seminar. Ooh, there we go. Okay, here's that summary page I was talking about with the categories and what you can do with the results. Important to note here, when they talk about increasing contribution margin, it means think about it as increasing price. So to increase your contribution margin, which is essentially your sales minus your variable costs, which we'll talk about later. You don't have to understand this now. You want to increase your sales price. Okay. To increase popularity. Okay. In a lot of cases, you want to decrease your price. So to increase popularity. Well, there's other things you can do as well. Is you can decrease your price. Okay, and hopefully that would capture additional popularity. Okay. All right, so the remaining slides here are just other considerations that you should be looking to when setting your prices. We've mentioned some of them already. For example, competition. Okay, we've talked about that extensively. We've talked about our cost structure. Okay, we want to our businesses in food service are much more variable based, so we're not terribly operationally leveraged, which we'll talk about in later lectures, which means that profitability is less volatile or changes less to changes in prices or sales, because the majority of our costs are variable, right? So they change, they go up and down with sales. So we need to take into consideration that when selling our prices. So again, making sure that our prices are based on a combination of direct costs or directly variable costs. So that's primarily your food cost and your labor cost. Okay. We also need to take into consideration elasticity of demand, and that was really the point of looking at the menu engineering analysis, is we need to know how demand changes when prices change. Okay. The research is really what's the word I'm looking for? Conflicted on how restaurant products how elastic they are. Okay, so you're probably talking about this in economics. If something is price elastic, it means that demand changes when price changes. Okay, so as price goes up, demand goes down. As price goes down, demand goes up. Okay, but there are some products, or luckily, there are some instances where we've found that restaurant menu items can be price inelastic, suggesting that we have a lot more flexibility with our price. Okay, um, this can be observed in a menu engineering analysis. For example, a star. A lot of times, star products are price inelastic, so you can increase the price if you want. Other items like your puzzles and your plow horse are price inelastic. Okay, so that means that as you change the price, the demand will change for those products. Okay, so that's why we look at menu engineering analysis. Okay, so price elasticity or elasticity of demand does play a role here, except that we don't calculate elasticity like you probably are in economics. And here we just understand the theory of it, and understand that's why we use the menu engineering analysis. Some other pricing tactics that you should be aware of. One is called bundling. So this is taking complementary items, coupling them together, and offering them at a discount to encourage high purchases and also higher contributions. Okay, we see this often with steaks and a starter salad. Okay, or even soup and a salad, that bundled with an entree. Okay, those are offered cheaper, but the contribution of those other items, for example, a salad, is much higher. So we can be a little bit more flexible with the price. Okay, in retail, you can see this as well if you go into Fortino's or what is it called? No Frills, Longos, things like that. You'll notice that pretty much any PepsiCo product is bundled with each other. For example, you can go buy a bag of Lay's, and you know what I mean. There's probably a promotion on with a bottle of pop or a bottle of Pepsi. So that's bundling. Okay, so complementary items offered at a discount. You can also use LTO menus. Okay, research has shown that seasonal products as well as organic products can come at can be priced at a premium. Okay, so if we understand that and we have limited time only menus that focus on seasonal products, seasonal organic products, we can offer these menus at a premium. Okay, and I'll show you how to what kind of premium in just a second. You can also offer products of varying quality at different price points. Because there's varying quality, you have to offer them at different price points, right? So this is the difference between a regular burger at a restaurant and a cheeseburger, right? While these are two different items, okay, they're also of varying quality. For example, the cheeseburger has cheese. The regular burger does not have cheese. So there's two different price points here for different preferences. Okay. And then lastly, you need to continuously assess the value of your products using customer feedback. Okay. If customers don't see the same value in your products that you do by setting your prices, they're going to let you know. Okay. So you need to constantly evaluate your food quality and your service quality based on your customers' feedback. Some other considerations, restaurant pricing is very complex and subject to so many different variables and factors that a lot of other pricing strategies just do not apply. Like I think I've already talked about bottom-up pricing. It does not take into consideration competition and nor a bundling of products, right? Neither does top-down for that matter. The reason why these are popular pricing strategy is because they're used in manufacturing. Okay, the big difference between manufacturing and us and restaurants is that restaurants offer many different prices or products and all have a different price, right? Whereas in manufacturing, typically they only have one or two, right? And all of those have a separate price, but there's too few of them, and there's the mix of our prices, the menu how do I say it? The sales mix of our menu items really creates our sales, whereas the sale of one product creates the sales in manufacturing. So you can't apply the same pricing strategies. Okay. And at the end of the day, some economic theory has been found to not apply. Okay, so we've already mentioned some topics. For example, increasing prices to reduce excess demand has been found to decrease profits, when according to economic theory, it would increase. Conversely, we mentioned that Michelin stars can successfully increase their prices on average of 50%. Okay, so some theory does not apply here. Okay, the remaining few slides are just some other considerations for pricing. So considerations continued. Research has shown that there are what we call magic numbers that are psychologically stimulating and increase purchases for high and low priced items. For example, low priced items ending in the number 9, for the example I have here is $8.99, is psychologically stimulating to guests, and they're more likely to purchase that at that price. For high-priced items, on the other hand, if the price ends in 5, and the example I have is $16.95, it's also psychologically stimulating to guests, and doing this all have shown to increase sales of those particular items. Right? If you ever go to Walmart, look at these price, like try and find the 99s and the 95s. Guaranteed, they're everywhere. Okay, so when you're setting your own prices, if it's a matter of 1 cent or 5 cents, decrease it so you can hit these magic numbers. All right, last one. More research has shown that organic, and I've already kind of mentioned this, that organic or seasonal menu items can be priced at a premium, more specifically organic in this case. In casual fine dining, organic menu items can be offered at a 12% premium. Okay, so by increasing your price 12%, in casual dining, and at fine dining restaurants, they can only increase their prices by 10% when offering organic menu items. Now, again, the question here is, why can they do that? And the answer is, and always is, you can increase your price when value is increasing. Again, because to increase value is to increase price, or it means you can increase price. Okay? So thank you for watching this video. I know this one was rather long, but and kind of complex to some degree. But what I want you to take from this is that our prices need to take into consideration our costs or economics. It needs to take into consideration value as well as our competition. Okay, when we do all three of these things, we are using strategic and tactical pricing. Okay, so on Thursday during our seminar, we're going to be going over a couple of topics. We're going to be going over first ratio analysis and calculating some of those ratios to illustrate how they're used in decision making. And we're also going to be completing a menu engineering analysis and a costing to arrive at pricing, and then continue with the menu engineering analysis to see what we can do with our specific prices on our menu. Okay, so thank you for watching this video, and if you have any questions, please email me, and yeah, have an awesome day.